Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today's guest is Cary Sparrow, and he's founder and CEO over at WageScape. Cary, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Adam, for having me on.
All right, Cary. So we got a big topic today, turning data into dollars, staying ahead of market events by quickly identifying opportunities and risks. A lot of business owners, a lot of executives that watch this show, a lot of entrepreneurs, and turning data into dollars sounds like music to my ears. So we're going to get into that and much more. But to get us started, we'll start this episode the way that we start them all with what we call our Mission Matters Minute. So, Cary, at Mission Matters, our aim and our goal is to amplify stories for entrepreneurs, executives, and experts. That's what we do. Cary, what mission matters to you?
So, WageScape was founded with a lofty goal of helping to make the labor market more transparent, which, if you think about it, the job market touches everyone in the world. It touches all of our lives, all of our families, all of our communities, all of our countries, every organization. So it's incredibly pervasive and important, and information about it is really pretty poor by all objective standards. So our mission is to change that. And by bringing better insights to what's happening in the labor market, we open doors to great innovation and also great efficiencies.
How did you, you're a founder. When did you first identify this opportunity to be able to help and start a company and decide to kind of pair your entrepreneurial prowess to it? Like, how'd that begin? Where'd the idea start?
So I've had, this is my fourth career. So I've worked doing different types of things. I was in the Navy, in engineering jobs. I worked for a big consulting firm. Running consulting businesses and helping like literally a couple hundred organizations solve, really difficult business challenges. And I worked as a corporate executive, helping to build out, global infrastructure to help manage their workforce much more effectively. And so along the way, just picked up kind of insights on things that aren't working. Always had kind of a view of where there are market opportunities that we can take advantage of in all the different types of roles that I was in. But it really started to come together when I started to see kind of the pace of change around the quality of information that's available, but being underutilized when it comes to what's going on in the labor market. I mean, my business training is a really strong economics foundation to it. And so any economist will tell you that anytime you've got a really big market and really bad information about it, that it doesn't operate the way that it should. And when you've got a market that touches everyone the way that the job market does, and you've got information that's really not very good, and you can improve that, then there's a real opportunity there. And so when I was in my last job, I started asking around to say, hey, it looks like, the reason why the information about, what jobs are available and what skills are needed and how much you're paying people and how much people should be paid and things like that, which right now, actually at the time and still today, there's a lot of guesswork that goes into that. I'm like, the underlying reasons for that seem to be able to be managed better now. We're talking about consolidation of technology, more sophistication in terms of the ability to combine information from across organizations, and the consulting partners and the technology partners that we were working with at the time, really kind of scratched their heads and didn't know what to do with that kind of insight. And so I broke off and founded what became WageScape to pursue that, and we've had a really interesting ride. It's been 9 years, and
Wow.
Demand for what we do has been growing at a very steady clip, and it's really accelerated coming out of the pandemic, I would say.
Wow. What was the and congrats on the 9 year, like almost to the 10, interesting. The person that my last interview, he just hit his 10 years. So I'm like, man, 10 years are big. It's a big deal to be able to survive. So first off, congrats on the 9 years. That's a big deal. I do want to stay in the beginning a little bit longer. When you decided to break off, what was the opportunity that you saw just in the market as an entrepreneur? Like give us some of what went into your decision to start this.
Yeah, so it started specifically around, helping people understand what they should be paying for jobs.
Mm.
Very, very kind of specific, narrow slice of kind of what's going on in the labor market. But
Mhm.
and the reason is that at the time, and really to this day, in most cases, if you want to know what to pay somebody, you're going to use information that was collected or that was based on pay decisions that are typically at least a year and a half old.
Mm.
Lots can happen between then. The information was typically collected between 6 and 12 months ago, so lots could happen there, and the information is then consolidated because the sample sizes are pretty small,
Mhm.
relatively speaking, and so that's how pay decisions get made, is by using
Mhm.
information that is out of date, it's very small samples, and it's very difficult to understand. And I had done a lot of work with that information. I'd done a
Mhm.
lot of work helping companies, get better at setting pay strategies, using pay strategies to
Mhm.
keep the employees that they had and attract the employees that they need and so forth. And I just saw a really big opportunity because I know how much money people spend on that.
Of course.
Organizations spend a huge amount of money trying to
Mhm.
figure out what's going on with pay, and it just seemed like a big waste to me. It seemed like, you know, the the equivalent, let me put it this way, the equivalent is if you went, and said, "I wanna buy, 1 share of a company like Microsoft,"
Mhm.
and you went to a broker and said, "Okay, I wanna do that," and the broker came back and said, "Well, based on what Microsoft was trading at, um, 15 months ago,
Mhm.
you can expect to pay between 26 and $35 for 1 share."
Yeah.
Okay, that's ridiculous. It's
Right.
completely ridiculous to
Yeah.
think about it that way. You wanna know, I mean, you can tell right now what any share of any company that's traded is trading for and what you're gonna have to pay for it. But
Mhm.
the example that I just gave, you substitute a stock price for what should you pay a job, and that's exactly how it's done.
Man.
Exactly how it's done.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of that was the problem that I said, "Wow, there's money to be made from this." No one else seems to be going after it. It
Mm.
turned out, and we can get into this over the course of the conversation, that a lot of my assumptions about how to go after that were completely wrong. Were
Mm.
totally wrong. But nonetheless, the underlying opportunity absolutely was there. And once we figured out kind of how to go after it, it opened up a lot of opportunities for us as a business.
Mm. You mentioned, your economics and consulting background. Did you have like a tech or analytics background at all in this too, or
Oh
was this
yeah.
like
Yeah, I've really got kind of, a friend of mine calls my career like a purple squirrel. You just don't see them, right? So I went to school for computer engineering. I was in the submarine force in the US Navy, and so it was very operational, like,
Mm.
come in the morning and find out you got to go someplace in
Man,
a
so
part of
when
the
this
world and,
when this light bulb went off in your head, you're like, "Huh?" The like
yeah, right.
like
And it's like anything where you want to test your ideas and stuff, but the
Mhm.
ability to connect dots that are very different is always something that I've just had kind of a natural ability to do. And
Mm.
not always correctly, by the way. There's been plenty times
We're entrepreneurs, man.
yeah,
Hey.
you so, anyways, yeah, so that's kinda how it happened, and there were a few other, reinforcing points along the way where,
Mm.
just insights from conversations, like people that should be able to see an opportunity that really were blind to it, and I'm like,
Mhm.
"Well, if" because it's the old adage, if it's such a great idea, someone else would have thought of it already. Well, that's not necessarily true.
Mm.
And even if they've thought of it, the idea is like 1/10 of 1% of success,
Mm.
so
So take us further along the evolution of this. We know where you started. Like, what was next? What was next as you started figuring out how you were going to build this platform?
so so there were a couple of things. Simultaneously, I had to kind of create some tech to prove out the concept so I could start
Mhm.
showing people. And what we did was we needed a whole bunch of data on jobs that had paid data, and so we went
Mhm.
out and built some tech to collect lots of data from job ads, job
Yeah.
advertisements, job listings, and it. My thought originally was that we would integrate in with a lot of kind of core enterprise technology that does like
Mhm.
recruiting and pay management, employee management and stuff, and get data directly from there and manage it, very securely, obviously.
Mhm.
But along the way, I figured out that there actually is all this data that's sitting out there in the public domain in job ads, and it's way richer than anything you could get from internal, HR systems. And so
Mm.
once we realized that, then it was like game on because all we got to do is just go and massively collect that data, organize it in a way that, makes, is very, very well architected, extract all the
Mhm.
intelligence that we can out of it. We discovered along the way that we, kind of stumbled into a couple of methods that nobody else was trying. So we're able to get pay data on about 75% of all the jobs that are listed in the US, and most of those jobs actually don't show pay data. The way that we do it
Mm.
is kind of part of our secret sauce. And so, it's a series of like literally every day, Adam, I would wake up knowing that whatever I thought needed to be done and how was wrong in some way.
Mm.
And that was actually a huge kind of mental shift, coming out of a corporate, executive environment was, where I moved out of immediately prior to WageScape. And there
Mhm.
you get paid to move risk out and to bring certainty to a situation.
Yeah.
And as a founder, there are a gazillion things that'll kill the company. And so your biggest risk is not moving fast enough. And so you
Mm.
know that you've got to make decisions based on incomplete data.
Mhm.
So, a big part of what I had to learn was how to prioritize the unknowns and
Mhm.
go after the ones that were the most important. And so, that was all part and parcel. I knew enough that there was an opportunity. I
Mm.
knew enough that other people weren't looking at it. I jumped after it and I did it in a way that allowed us to be really flexible. We didn't lock in on a solution. We basically
Yeah.
took a learning approach to everything that we did.
And so you mentioned 75% that of jobs. That's a huge amount. So then I'm guessing any job, any location, like I'm just trying to get a feel for
Yeah,
like what type of employers would use the platform. Like get into that a
all
little bit.
kinds. All
Yeah.
kinds, right? And so whether you're recruiting somebody, you're trying to keep your own employees, or
Mhm.
you're setting your own pay strategy. Um, so and so company just moved in. They got a big warehouse. They're paying $5 more an hour than what we're paying in our warehouse. Do
Yeah.
we need to change what we're paying? Well, go out and take a look at who else hires those kinds of warehouse workers. What are they paying? Because it may be
Mm.
that that new company is bringing 100 jobs in, but there's actually 10,000 of those jobs in the market, so you don't need to chase that. Or it could
Mm.
be that that's a really big deal, and you need to convince people that you need to act on it. Well, any kind of company is worried about how competitive they are from a pay standpoint. Any kind of company,
Oh yeah.
it's not good enough to say jobs in in Iowa pay this much. You've got to know, in Cedar Rapids, HVAC
Yeah.
technicians that specialize in this kind of product get paid this much. And here's the companies that are hiring
Mm.
them and how much each of those companies are getting paid. And that's the data that we deal with. It's that kind of
Mm.
data. It's that level of precision. Um, and
That's
so,
amazing though, because that lets you, as close as you get apples to apples, right? So
right.
like you're comparing the right use case scenario and the right data so that you're making an informed decision and where you stand. So then
That's That's exactly right, and then
Mhm.
you can just pull that thread even more. If you're competing for talent,
Mm.
then knowing, like, what are all the different benefits that, my competition is offering for the same types of jobs is hugely,
Yeah.
valuable and important. Um, if you're trying to, keep your own talent, you're gonna pay an awful lot of money if you chase whoever the highest priced employer is in your market, and you're
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
lose a ton of people if you're the lowest priced employer in your market. And so knowing exactly what that looks like and being able to exactly match these kinds of jobs fit with what we have, and
Mm.
these kinds of jobs, even if it's not in the same industry, let's just use the HVAC technician
Yeah.
example. How many different types of companies do you think employ HVAC technicians? It's not just manufacturing jobs
Mhm.
or industrial jobs. There's all kinds of, and most people historically have no idea where their competition
Mm.
for those jobs really is, and so that now is essential. I think there's absolutely the awareness now coming out of the pandemic
Mm.
that, like you said, any job, any location, any
Yeah.
industry, you've got to know what's going on. You got to know at that level of precision in order to be competitive and in
Mhm.
order to be cost effective
Yeah. And
yourself.
does this also apply to I'm assuming it does, but I just wanna go further in the scenario. Does this also apply to, like, middle market management, I don't know,
Mhm.
software
Yeah,
engineers? You, like, kinda go up the ladder and it applies?
Yeah, absolutely. So the kind of data that we deal with and the kind of data that our clients, get
Mhm.
value from is directly relevant to jobs at all levels, entry
Mm.
level or hourly, all the way up to top executives.
Yeah. So you've been on this journey 9 years. Obviously, it started. You didn't use this word. Maybe it's the wrong word. Rudimentary or very basic. Your first thesis was very basic. Now you're 9 years later building. I'm curious on like what is the future of this look like for you? Like how far can you push this?
Um, there's always something next, right? So
Yeah. What's
there's the next in terms of how do we compete with what we have, right?
mm,
So how do we get, more people using the data products that we provide, more
hmm
partners that are integrating our data into their applications, their
yeah.
platforms, their services that they provide with what we have. And then there's looking at, well, where are there adjacencies that we need to move into? And the pace of
hmm
that is fast. It's not quite like application life cycles where you've got to plan like 3 versions ahead constantly,
hmm
but it's pretty fast. We're thinking a couple versions down the road
mm
constantly. And that means new data sources, new territories that are covered, new ways to help people use our data,
hmm
all those things. New ways to combine data from multiple organizations to all of our benefits.
mm
Those are all the things that we've started doing, and we're going to grow in the way that we do them.
Mm.
So,
So take me through kind of like the onboarding or just the process so that our listeners can get a feel for like what it's like to work with WageScape. So, I'm an employer, I'm watching this interview or I'm listening to it, I'm driving in the car and I'm like, okay, this sounds great. This sounds amazing, but like, is it going to be complicated? Like, what does this look like? Take me through what it looks like for a new client.
right. So if you're in the business of acquiring talent, or if you're in the business of managing compensation,
Hmm
we have applications that are directly relevant to you, and they start with simple kind of business intelligence applications that allow you to say, I want to see what's going on with hiring and competition and pay for this specific job in this specific market over this time
mm
frame. And then I want to compare it to, some other comparison. Maybe it's a different company that's hiring or whatever. We've got
hmm
really powerful tools. You can actually see them on our website and try them out for individuals. If you are in a company where you've got a really robust analytics capability already, you have analysts that have
Yeah.
their really strong tools and bring data sources in, then you just work directly with us to bring our data into your environment. We
Mm.
work with you to figure out where you're going to get value from it, what's the best configuration of it, and what's the easiest way for you to get it. And we make
Mm.
it really easy to work with us from a technical standpoint. If you're in a different kind of business, like it's not just recruiting and pay. If you're in the
Mhm.
business of needing to understand how hiring signals signal or hiring behaviors signal future business actions, future business
Mm.
potential. Like if you're, in the business of managing investments, in the business of evaluating financial risk, things like
Mm.
that, then it's the same data platform and it's the same ways to use it, but it's just a very different use case. And so
Mm. What
that's
about
actually
size?
one of oh, go ahead.
What about size of company? Like, is there a certain amount of employees? There's something that like where this makes sense? Doesn't make sense? Like, what does that look like?
Any company where they have either they have a recruiter, like a full-time
Yeah.
recruiter, or a portion of a uh, at least a portion of an HR
Mhm.
representative's time is spent on managing compensation can
Mm.
benefit from our services, and we're priced accordingly.
Yeah.
So if you're a small organization and have small needs, then you pay a small price. If
Mm.
you're a big organization with really big sophisticated needs, then the price is higher, but the value is way higher too.
Yeah, yeah. No, I see that, and I'm just I think it's exciting because the
Mhm.
example that you kind of opened this conversation up with of like, yeah, if you're going to buy, some shares of Microsoft based on a price from 15 months ago,
Yeah,
it sounds absolutely ridiculous. So when you kind of connect that with, okay, well, if you're using hiring data or wage data from 15 months ago, and you could have up to the date like type data,
mhm,
like why would you go with anything else, right?
right. Right, and that's the thing. There's lots of different ways to look at
Mhm.
pay data. There's more types of data that we work with in terms of
Yeah.
employment data and hiring and so forth, but specifically around pay, there's lots of different types of data, but the quality of data that's available now is has really undergone a big shift, and
Mm,
we're a part of that shift. And every organization has an opportunity to adapt the way that they manage things for better competitive advantage when it comes to talent by
mm,
bringing data sources like ours and data intelligence like wage intelligence like ours
yeah.
into how they manage things.
Amazing. Well, Cary, this has been, I mean, I've learned a lot about what's going on with data, wages, the market. I mean, I'm sure my audience did as well. I just have to ask, I mean, what's next? What's next for you? What's next for WageScape? Let's dream for a moment.
So growth is the
Yeah.
number one thing. And like I said, it's growth in terms of market share with what we have. So,
Mhm.
and it's expanding into new markets, both of those.
Amazing. And if somebody who's watching this or listening to this and they want to follow up and learn more about WageScape, how do they do that?
It's easy. Just go to wagescape.com or you can reach me directly on LinkedIn.
Perfect. And for everybody watching or listening to this, we'll put all that information in the show notes so you can just click on the links and head right on over. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters, this is a daily show. Each and every day, we're bringing you new entrepreneurs, new executives, and hopefully new inspiration to help you along in your journey as well. So if that sounds interesting to you, we welcome you. Hit that subscribe or follow button because we sure would like to have you back to listen to another episode. And Cary, again, thank you so much for coming on. And I'm looking forward to this 10-year reunion, man, or 10-year anniversary that
Absolutely.
you have coming up. Maybe we make it a reunion. I don't know. Got to plan something for that. So that's amazing. And congrats on your success.
I'd be happy to come back on, Adam. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you and your audience.